Robert the doll is one of the most notorious haunted objects in the world. The story of this creepy and unsettling toy began more than a century ago, in the early 1900s, in Key West, Florida. The doll was originally owned by a young boy named Robert Eugene Otto, who was known as Gene to his family and friends. Gene's parents were wealthy and well-respected members of Key West society, and they had a large and beautiful home on a quiet street in the heart of the town. One day, when Gene was just 6 years old, his parents returned from a trip to the Bahamas with a strange and eerie-looking doll. The doll was a 40-inch tall toy that was dressed in a sailor suit and had a strange, unsettling expression on its face. The doll quickly became Gene's constant companion. He named the doll Robert, after himself, and carried it with him wherever he went. But soon, strange things began to happen. According to legend, the doll seemed to have a life of its own. Gene claimed that the doll could move on its own and that it would sometimes speak to him in a strange and menacing voice. Gene's parents and their servants also reported strange occurrences, such as the doll moving from room to room on its own and laughing in a way that sounded almost human. The family also reported that they would often hear the sound of small footsteps running up and down the stairs, and that when they investigated, they would find Robert in a different part of the house than where they had left him. Sometimes, they would even hear a faint voice that sounded like a child's, coming from the direction of the doll. As time went on, the strange occurrences surrounding Robert only intensified. Gene would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night to find the doll sitting at the end of his bed, staring at him with its lifeless eyes. Visitors to the house also reported feeling uneasy in Robert's presence, and some even claimed that they had seen the doll's expression change, or its eyes follow them around the room. The Otto family began to suspect that there was something deeply wrong with Robert. Some even suggested that the doll was possessed by an evil spirit, possibly one that had been conjured by a servant in the Bahamas who had practiced voodoo. Despite their fears, Gene refused to part with his beloved doll. He continued to carry it with him wherever he went, and even took it with him to school. Other children at the school soon began to whisper about the strange doll, and some even claimed that they had seen it move on its own. Over time, the strange occurrences surrounding Robert became so intense that the Otto family eventually locked the doll away in the attic. But even then, they could still hear the sound of something moving around up there, as if the doll were trying to escape. Years later, after Gene had grown up and left the family home, he returned to Key West with his wife. When they moved into the old Otto family home, Gene's wife discovered the doll in the attic and brought it down to the living room. But strange things began to happen once again. Visitors to the house reported feeling uneasy in the presence of the doll, and some claimed that they had seen it move on its own or heard it whispering to them in the dead of night. Eventually, Gene's wife grew so unnerved by the doll that she decided to donate it to a local museum. Today, Robert the doll is on display at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, where visitors can see the creepy and unsettling toy and learn about its strange and mysterious history. Over the years, the legend of Robert the doll has become a popular subject, and depending on who is telling the story. One common variation is the explanation of the doll's name. According to some versions of the story, Gene named the doll after himself, while others suggest that the doll was named after Robert Eugene Otto, a friend of Gene's family who gave the doll to Gene as a gift. Another variation of the story involves the origins of the doll. While some versions suggest that the doll was made by a servant skilled in voodoo, others claim that it was a commercially produced toy that was simply given to Gene as a gift by his parents. There are also different accounts of the doll's behavior. While many stories describe the doll as being haunted or possessed, others suggest that Gene simply had an overactive imagination and that the doll's movements and actions were simply the result of Gene's own behavior. Some versions of the story even suggest that Gene's parents were responsible for moving the doll around the house and that the entire thing was a hoax. Despite the variations in the story, one thing remains clear: Robert the doll has become a significant part of Key West's history and folklore, and his story continues to fascinate and terrify people to this day. Please support me by smashing the like button and subscribing to my channel. Turn on all notifications for new upcoming videos.